I accidentally brought home a Prop Tumor Report from a film shoot. While we were eating, Chloe, my contract wife, suddenly asked how many months I had left. I thought she was asking about our 2-year marriage contract. "It's coming up soon. Probably only 2 months left," I replied. Chloe fell silent. Later, I went abroad for 3 months of low-key advanced studies. When I returned, I heard from a friend that Chloe had been frantically searching all over the country for her deceased husband, saying she needed to see him, dead or alive. I had ordered a huge spread of takeout and was just about to dig in when Chloe, whom I hadn't seen in months, suddenly sat down across from me. I looked up at her, somewhat surprised. In over a year of marriage, Chloe and I rarely saw each other. She was usually cold towards me, and sharing a meal was even rarer. As her assistant put it, "You're just in a contract marriage for 2 years. Don't get any ideas you shouldn't. When the time comes, take the money and leave gracefully. You're not losing out. Someone like Ms. Miller isn't someone you can aspire to." Chloe just sat there, exuding an air of precious arrogance from head to toe, accustomed to being the center of attention. Someone like me, who'd have to strive for a decade just to get near her level, truly couldn't aspire to her. So, I always knew my place, never asking about anything beyond money and resources. Chloe seemed to have left her company in a hurry. She hadn't even changed, still wearing a high-end business suit as she sat across from me, quietly watching me devour my food. A drop of hot pot broth nearly splashed onto Chloe. She paused, then suddenly asked, "How much time is left?" I glanced at her, puzzled. Chloe was usually very busy. For someone like her, time was money. Had she dropped her work and come all this way just to ask how much time was left on our marriage contract? She was probably anxious for me to leave, feeling embarrassed by my presence in her home. I carefully calculated the time and reassured Chloe. "It'll be soon, probably only about 2 months. Don't worry, Miss Miller. I'll leave on my own beforehand. I won't cause you any trouble." After hearing this, Chloe suddenly fell silent. After a long pause, when she spoke again, her voice held a barely perceptible emotion. "Then in this final period, do you have any last wishes?" Since signing the marriage contract with Chloe, I had already received enough resources from her. So I shook my head and said, "No, thank you. I don't have any other wishes." I wasn't sure if it was my imagination, but I thought I saw Chloe's eyelashes tremble slightly when she heard that. Chloe had been acting a bit strangely lately. Previously, I'd only seen her once every few weeks, but now she was home every day. This morning, after replying to my agent's message, I looked up to see Chloe sitting in the living room, quietly watching me. A shiver ran down my spine for a moment. Then I smiled at her and said, "Miss Miller, not going to the company these days?" Chloe shook her head. "Company matters aren't important right now." I remembered hearing from my agent this morning that Alex was back in the country. Glancing at the wine bottles on the living room table, I nodded in understanding. Chloe's assistant had specifically told me that Chloe signed the 1-year marriage contract with me because I looked a lot like her first love, Alex. Alex was a young actor who had become a sensation 2 years ago with a web drama. It was said Chloe had invested a lot of money in that web drama. But Alex, after becoming famous, decisively broke up with Chloe and went abroad. And Chloe had signed the marriage contract with me deliberately to provoke Alex. I found it quite amusing. Indeed, this was the kind of love game rich people played, and working-class folks like me were just supporting characters. Since I had just finished filming a cheesy drama about a domineering CEO chasing his wife, I could rest at home for a while. While tidying my room, I suddenly remembered that the prop I had accidentally brought back from the set was still in my backpack. The prop was a tumor report, but I couldn't find it even after turning my backpack inside out. I figured Mrs. Davis, the housekeeper, must have seen it and thrown it away as trash. It wasn't a big deal if it was gone. I would just tell the director. To avoid disturbing Chloe, who was in the living room pining for her first love, I stayed in my room playing games and eating snacks. I choked on water while laughing and started coughing uncontrollably. There was a sudden knock on the door, and Chloe's somewhat anxious voice came from outside. "Has it gotten worse? Is it very uncomfortable?" I was choking too hard to speak. Chloe immediately pushed the door open. I was coughing violently, and when I looked up at her, my eyes were watering from the coughing, making me look like I was in great pain. Chloe, usually so composed, was suddenly flustered. She fumbled for her phone to call her assistant, then looked at me and said, "Don't worry. I'll have Sam take you to the hospital right away." I finally caught my breath and looked at Chloe, bewildered. I said to her, "What's the use of going to the hospital? What's the use of going to the hospital for choking on water? I don't quite understand." Chloe froze for a moment. Then she seemed to realize something and stood there stunned, muttering, "Indeed, it's no use. The last 2 months, it's truly beyond help." Standing face to face with Chloe, she remained in the same position, motionless, and I had no idea what she was thinking. Looking at the game still running on my screen, I felt my rare vacation time was quite precious. Clearing my throat, I took the initiative to break the somewhat strange atmosphere. "Miller, if there's nothing else, may I rest in my room alone?" She seemed to snap back to reality, staring at me, her usually cool and aloof features showing a rare touch of sorrow. When Chloe knocked on my door again, I was a bit exasperated. I had seen her more today than in all our previous encounters combined. When I opened the door, the smell of alcohol on Chloe was stronger. Her usually impeccably styled hair was now messy. "Are you free tonight? I want to take you to a dinner party with my friends. We've been married for so long, and my friends haven't even met you yet." I looked at Chloe in surprise. Married for over a year, I had always known my place. I was at best an unpresentable substitute. Would Chloe not lose face by taking me to meet her friends? Or was it because Alex had returned today and she deliberately wanted to humiliate me in front of her friends to get Alex's attention? I pondered for a moment and asked Chloe, "Will Mr. Alex be there today?" A flicker of confusion crossed Chloe's face, but after a moment, she nodded. "Understood. I'll cooperate," I said, enlightened. Chloe's friends were mostly young ladies from powerful and wealthy families. A single dress they wore could cost more than my salary for an entire drama. When Chloe and I entered, they all looked over, their scrutinizing gazes falling on me. They seemed like a difficult crowd. Chloe was walking ahead of me. When she suddenly stopped, I almost bumped into her. Then, I felt someone gently take my hand. This was the first time Chloe and I had had any physical contact in our entire marriage. Chloe's palm was a bit cold, which combined with her usually expressionless face made me inexplicably curious. What was she like when someone who always seemed so in control became so persistent for love? We hadn't walked far when I heard a familiar voice from behind. "Sorry, everyone. My flight just landed. I'm late." It was Alex. That face so similar to mine, paired with his high-end suit, made him look incredibly handsome, making me in my cheap clothes look like a country bumpkin reeking of poverty. I quickly and tactfully let go of Chloe's hand, thoughtfully afraid that Alex might misunderstand that we were a real couple. Chloe, walking in front of me, stiffened. She seemed to give a bitter laugh, her voice almost inaudible. "Do you still hate me this much?" Although I had long known Chloe was prominent, seeing her now surrounded by several wealthy young ladies and seated in the center, I still felt a sense of awe. Indeed, money talks. I consciously chose a corner seat. Not far away, Chloe, while casually answering the boring questions thrown at her by those around, looked over in my direction. Actually, when Chloe saw I hadn't sat next to her, she looked taken aback for a moment. Then, she opened her mouth as if wanting to ask something. But after a while, she silently turned away and paid me no more attention. Chloe, accustomed to handling grand occasions, rarely showed emotion on her face. But now it was obvious she was in a bad mood. Her eyes were cold, and she sipped her wine slowly, her whole being seemingly wrapped in a layer of frost. I instinctively glanced at Alex. Perhaps others hadn't seen it, but I had been paying close attention to Alex and Chloe. I saw Alex deliberately walk past Chloe as if he hadn't seen her, greeting everyone else present but pointedly ignoring Chloe. Indeed, the online rumors about Chloe and Alex were true. Olivia, who was close to Chloe, took advantage of a moment when no one was paying attention, patted Chloe's shoulder, and joked, "What? Haven't you two found a chance to clear things up yet?" Chloe pressed her temples, annoyed. "Not yet, Olivia." Enjoying the drama. Scared and teased. Hesitating isn't like you. Be careful someone doesn't steal your man. Chloe raised her eyes to look at Olivia, who immediately shrugged and changed her tune. Right. Who would dare steal your man? I was just kidding. Before Chloe could speak, Olivia suddenly looked around, puzzled. By the way, where's the husband who came with you? I haven't seen him. Chloe followed her gaze and frowned, looking at the empty seat. At that moment, I was hiding in the restroom. It wasn't that I didn't want to come out, but the situation was just too awkward. Outside, Alex and his friend Brandon were chatting animatedly, completely unaware there was someone else in the restroom. Are you and Ms. Miller still on bad terms? Speaking of which, I really can't tell with someone like Ms. Miller. She's actually so devoted to you, even deliberately finding a husband who looks 7 out of 10 like you. But I don't think that guy can compare to you at all, Alex scoffed, adjusting his hair in the mirror. Let her stew for a while longer. When I'm in a good mood someday, I'll just beckon. And won't she come running? But you should be careful, too. You two have been in a Cold War for so long. What if Ms. Miller figures things out one day? Where else would you find such a devoted cash cow? Alex interrupted impatiently. How is that possible? Who else could she like besides me? That new husband of hers molded after me. The new husband molded after him was currently hiding in the restroom, silent, his hand frozen on the doorknob. I was now debating whether to open the door or not. Because they had been talking for so long, my legs were really sore from standing inside. But the scene of the three of us face to face after opening the door would be incredibly awkward. Weighing the options, I decided to endure it a little longer. I'd have to ask Chloe for some extra compensation later. I was making a huge sacrifice to prevent her first love, Alex, from being embarrassed. Not long after, there was a knock on the restroom door, and Chloe's voice came from outside. Hello. Is anyone in there? All three of us, Alex, Brandon, and I, were stunned. Brandon looked at Alex with envy. TSK, TSK. She's so worried about you coming to find you after just a short while. Alex couldn't hide his smugness, raising an eyebrow. I told you she doesn't like me. Who else could she like? Then Chloe spoke again. Hello, is my husband in there? He's been gone for a long time, and I'm worried something might have happened to him. The restroom fell silent for a moment. The door creaked open, and I braced myself and walked out, coming face to face with a stunned Alex and Brandon. I gave an awkward laugh. Oh, you guys are here too. Neither of them spoke. Alex's face turned pale for a moment. Then he quickly walked out. As he passed Chloe, he deliberately shot her a glare before walking away. I followed behind them. When I got out, I frantically winked at Chloe, who was waiting. He's angry. Why aren't you chasing him? Is this woman an idiot? Chloe looked at my expression, frowning in confusion. What's wrong? Has your condition worsened? I secretly roll my eyes. What condition? I'm so young and healthy. Don't curse me with an illness. Olivia, following Chloe, suddenly asked curiously, what condition? Isn't I Twitch considered an illness? Only then did I notice Olivia. I had met her before. She was Chloe's childhood friend. I heard she'd had countless boyfriends. Today, she brought a very special boyfriend to dinner who was sitting next to me. He was a college student dressed in simple jeans and a sweatshirt amidst all the extravagant attire. Looking innocent and nervous, he meekly let me trick him into drinking out of boredom. I silently scorned Olivia. You're the one with the eye twitch. Your whole family has eye twitches. Chloe didn't explain much, just coolly replied to Olivia, you wouldn't understand. She turned to me. Actually, I don't understand either. But as Chloe's contract husband, I never asked about things that weren't my concern. When we returned to the private room, many people were gathered around Alex. Seeing Chloe return, Brandon deliberately raised his voice. Alex, don't be sad. It's not worth it for that kind of woman. No one else dared to speak, unwilling to offend Chloe. Brandon, seeing the sudden silence and feeling a bit embarrassed, said loudly again, even if you two are fighting, does he have to deliberately make you so upset? He clearly knows you've always been very proud. A weak voice suddenly interrupted from the room. But I remember Ms. Miller's husband is Ethan, not you. It's not right for you to say that. I was stunned. Following the voice, I saw Olivia's quiet boyfriend nervously clutching his wine glass. Speaking up for me, Brandon's face darkened. Just as he was about to say something more, Olivia spoke first. Exactly. Her husband is here. What are you all making a fuss about? I was dumbfounded. I instinctively turned to look at Chloe. Her eyes, when she looked at Brandon and Alex, were terrifyingly cold. After a long moment, she finally spoke. Security, if they cause any more trouble, throw them out. Upon hearing this, not just me, but even Alex looked up at Chloe in disbelief, his face cold. The dinner party ended unhappily. Back home, as soon as the door was locked, I turned around and bumped into Chloe, who was standing still. The living room lights weren't on. Chloe was probably in a bad mood today. She was usually self-disciplined and rarely drank. But now, standing so close to me, the faint scent of her perfume mixed with red wine enveloped me. I didn't dare move. I felt my heart beating a little fast. After a while, I heard Chloe's voice slightly. Ethan, I have something to say to you. The atmosphere was a bit too strange. I was inexplicably nervous. Just say it. Then, as if remembering something, I added, oh, right. I have something to tell you, too. A phone suddenly rang, interrupting what Chloe was about to say. She hesitated for a moment before answering the call. It was her. Chloe's brow furrowed. What did you say? A break in the funding chain. She hurried out, pausing at the door as she closed it, turned back to me, and said, wait for me. I'll be back soon. But I didn't see Chloe for several days. Seeing how busy she was, I didn't want to bother her further. So, I didn't tell her about my application to study abroad, because acting still required a lot more learning. I followed a friend's advice and chose to go abroad for 3 months of low-key advanced studies. By the time I boarded the plane, I had already planned it out. When I returned after 3 months of study, it would be around the time our contract was up. Chloe not seeing me at home would be out of sight, out of mind for her. We'd get the divorce finalized, and I'd focus on my career. When I went abroad, adhering to my habit of saving money, I specifically got a foreign SIM card. For 3 consecutive months, I was like a hermit, completely immersed in my studies until I returned. Just after getting off the plane, I turned on my phone and switched back to my original SIM card. The 99+ calls and flood of messages made me pause and think for a moment. I had told my parents in the countryside about my trip abroad for studies. Since I had few friends, only my 4 closest friends knew about it. As for my agent and the company, I had specifically requested leave. An automatically pushed message popped up from a public account called Entertainment Gossip Guide. Another poignant love story to find her deceased husband. The renowned CEO of Miller Corporation scoured the country just to see her beloved one last time. I read the sentence over and over again, then stood there utterly bewildered. The CEO of Miller Corporation was Chloe. I knew that, but I didn't know if my understanding was wrong or if Chloe had found a new husband. Who was this deceased husband referring to? Returning to Chloe's villa, the house was very quiet. All the furnishings were exactly as I had left them. Even the juice I had left with 1 sip remaining, forgotten on the table, was still there, untouched. I was somewhat silent. 3 months. It must have fermented. My room was even locked. I couldn't get in to get my passbook, which held my savings from over 10 years of work. Feeling a bit frustrated, I sat down on the sofa. The living room was littered with wine bottles. Mrs. Davis probably hadn't been allowed to clean for months. I had no choice but to pick up a broom and start cleaning, deciding to tidy up the house one last time before the contract ended. The villa door opened just then. It was Chloe, home from the company. It was only 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Chloe was a workaholic. Usually, at this time, she'd still be in a meeting, but now she wasn't wearing makeup, dressed in casual clothes. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her head was bowed. Chloe always maintained a good image, dressed impeccably in professional attire, with a slim waist and long legs, looking exquisite and aloof. Now she looked so dejected that I suspected her company had gone bankrupt. Chloe took off her coat, and as soon as she looked up, her eyes met mine as I sat on the sofa. She froze for a moment, then lowered her head, rubbed her eyes wearily, and said with a bitter, self-deprecating smile, "Haven't slept well for days. How am I even hallucinating now?" I was a bit speechless. Then I said, "What hallucination? I'm alive and well." Chloe's movements paused. She stared at me wide-eyed. After a long moment, she suddenly strode forward, grabbed the half-empty bottle of red wine from the living room table, took a swig, and walked straight up to me. She stared at me intently, her lips moving slightly. The strong smell of alcohol made me realize Chloe was probably not very sober. Just as I sensed trouble, Chloe suddenly cupped my face with both hands, her gaze seemingly full of emotion, and bit down hard on my lips. Her arms wrapped around my waist, her body pressing into mine. Chloe had a light fragrance from her perfume that was making my head spin. I tried to push Chloe away while trying to wake her up. "Chloe, I'm really not dead." When Chloe heard my voice, she looked up at me, her eyes frighteningly red. Then she squeezed her eyes shut tightly, her voice trembling. "Even if it's a dream, if I can see you in a dream, then let it last a little longer." "Dream my ass. This is why I hate dealing with drunk people." Chloe's movements became more urgent, as if afraid I would disappear again in the next second. Exhausted, I chose to give up. However, just as I let go, Chloe suddenly closed her eyes and collapsed into my arms. I panicked and checked her breathing. Thankfully, she was probably just exhausted from lack of sleep and had fallen asleep. I was very frustrated, having no idea why she was suddenly acting so crazy. When I called Mrs. Davis to come and clean up, she sounded audibly panicked on the other end. Okay, I'll be right there." I paused for half a second, then explained, "Did Chloe tell you I passed away? Actually, I'm not dead. I'm alive and well." Mrs. Davis's voice seemed even more nervous. Okay, I'm coming. I waited until 8 o'clock in the evening. Mrs. Davis hadn't arrived. Chloe hadn't woken up. My room door was still locked, and I had been on the phone with everyone around me asking what on earth had happened. After asking around for a long time, I finally found out. Mrs. Davis had taken a picture of my Prop Tumor Report and told Chloe I had a terminal illness. I fell silent because I remembered the Prop Tumor Report I had lost on set last time. It turned out Mrs. Davis had taken it and given it to Chloe. Then I remembered all the questions Chloe had asked me before, and I understood in an instant. So when Chloe asked how much time I had left, she was asking how many days I had left to live, not how much time was left on our contract, and I had said only 3 months. Fortunately, Chloe had only started posting missing person notices online a few days ago. If it had been any later, I might have just returned to the country only to find myself attending my own memorial service in a few days. When Chloe woke up, it was already past 11 at night. She opened her eyes, stared at me blankly for a while, then rubbed her temples and continued to stare at me in a daze. I greeted her with a forced smile. "Ms. Miller, you're finally awake." Chloe nodded silently. I briefly told her, "I'm not dead. I'm alive and well. I just went abroad for advanced studies for 3 months. I was going to tell you last time, but you went to the company. I saw you were busy, so I didn't disturb you. That tumor report was just a prop from shoot I did." Chloe paused for a few seconds. Then her eyelashes fluttered before she spoke again. "A prop?" I took a deep breath. "Yes, I just accidentally brought it home." The room was quiet for a while. After a long pause, Chloe's voice somewhat repeated, "So you're really not dead?" "Of course." Chloe's lips moved. She looked up again, then frowned at my lips. "Why is your mouth so swollen? What were you doing abroad?" Afraid Chloe would cause an even bigger misunderstanding than holding a memorial service for me, I quickly explained, "You kissed me? Don't you remember?" Chloe froze for a moment again, a blush quickly spreading across her cool features. She coughed awkwardly twice. "I tend to lose my composure when drunk. I apologize." More than losing composure, I thought, gritting my teeth. Well, since all the misunderstandings had been cleared up, I brought up the main issue with Chloe. "By the way, I rushed back this time to handle the divorce proceedings. Our 2-year marriage contract has expired. Are you free tomorrow?" "No," Chloe replied immediately. "What about the day after tomorrow or the day after that?" "No time for any of them." Chloe looked at me. "You know, I'm very busy with work." I fell silent, but I wasn't actually in a hurry. I had rushed back because I thought Chloe was eager to divorce me. After all, didn't she still want to win Alex back? And now that I thought about it carefully, this whole misunderstanding suddenly seemed a bit strange. I could sense that Chloe had unusually strong feelings for me, but wasn't I just a substitute for Alex? In the early days of my marriage to Chloe, It wasn't that I hadn't developed different feelings for her. After all, Chloe did have a face that could easily captivate any man. After being together for over a year, even with someone you disliked, it was hard not to develop some sort of different emotion. But I quickly reminded myself repeatedly that Chloe and I were from different worlds, and she already had someone she couldn't forget. I could like anyone, but I couldn't let my affections seem so pathetic. So I always deliberately try not to care about Chloe's life, never asking about things that didn't concern me and nipping any inappropriate feelings in the bud. I didn't know if the emotions Chloe was expressing towards me now were based on a habit formed from over a year of contractual cohabitation, or if it was a simple infatuation after treating me as Alex's substitute. But I couldn't accept either. So I smiled faintly at Chloe and said, "Then you pick a time, and we'll get the divorce papers sorted out quickly. I won't disturb you these next few days. I'll rent a place outside for now." The next time I ran into Alex, he had come to my house looking for me. He looked me up and down, took a confident sip of tea, and then slowly said, "Do you know why Chloe married you?" I nodded calmly and finished a sentence for him. "I know, because I look a bit like you, and she's using me as your substitute." Alex was taken aback, then said contemptuously, "Since you know, why are you still hanging around her being an eyesore to me? You should know all I have to do is apologize to Chloe, and she'll come running back to me." I answered, "Honestly, I know. That's why we're getting divorced in a few days." Alex clearly hadn't expected me to be so sensible. He opened his mouth, then closed it again silently, seemingly unsure what to say next. After a moment, he sneered, "Good that you know. Don't pester her anymore." Just as Alex was about to leave, he opened the door and came face to face with Chloe, who was standing at the entrance, clearly having heard for who knows how long. I felt a bit awkward for both of them. Alex looked at Chloe, his voice suddenly deepening, and said sincerely, "Chloe, it was my fault. I shouldn't have gone abroad. Will you come back to me?" Chloe, however, frowned and took a step back. "Mr. Alex, please watch yourself. Don't say things that could cause misunderstandings." Alex was stunned. He was naturally arrogant, and now apologizing for the first time and being rejected so bluntly made him angry. "What do you mean, Chloe? I've already apologized to you. What more do you want?" Chloe looked at him calmly. "What more do I want? I should be asking you that. You keep pestering me. What exactly do you want?" I was shocked, sensing a big piece of gossip. Chloe continued, "You've been deliberately using me to create buzz and generate traffic. I gave you face and didn't pursue it. What more do you want?" Then she turned to me, who was intently listening to the gossip, and said, "You just stand there watching the show. I hadn't finished what I wanted to say to you last time before you left. Today, let's clear everything up." After listening to what Chloe said, I truly felt it was a shocking piece of gossip because the investor for Alex's web drama had bailed. And when filming was halfway through, the director asked Alex to attend a dinner to secure sponsorship. It sounded nice, securing sponsorship, but it was actually a quid pro quo situation. Coincidentally, Chloe was at the dinner. Seeing Alex being harassed by an overweight, wealthy woman, Chloe came to his rescue and ended up investing in the entire drama. Chloe had always maintained her chastity and wasn't like other young ladies who partied all the time. So, as soon as this happened, rumors started flying that Alex was Chloe's unrequited first love. Because of Chloe's status and position, many people trying to curry favor with her deliberately tried to please Alex. Driven by vanity, Alex intentionally didn't clarify the rumors, letting them spread. Over time, even he himself believed the gossip. That's right. If Chloe didn't like him, why would she invest so much money in such a critically panned web drama for a boy who wasn't even a relative? If Chloe didn't like him, why did she never proactively clarify these rumors? But this time, Chloe didn't spare Alex any face. Her gaze towards Alex was cold. "Do you know why I've always bothered to ignore what you've done? Otherwise, normally any celebrity who offends the Miller family wouldn't just disappear. They become even more famous. Alex, you really should thank your face." My eyes widened in shock. So, it turned out we were both substitutes. Chloe looked at my surprised expression with some amusement. She took my hand and said, "Do you remember? The first time we met was on a plane." Of course I remembered. Because of that, After I later found out Chloe's identity, I worried for a long time. The first time Chloe and I met was on a plane. At that time, Chloe had just returned from studying abroad. I'm naturally a friendly person. I saw Chloe was pretty on the plane and deliberately struck up a conversation with her. I told her I was actually a celebrity, just an 18th tier one. Chloe looked at the financial newspaper in her hand and said succinctly, then I pointed to a building that almost pierced the clouds and said, "That's my father's company." Chloe finally reacted, looking at me with slight surprise. Then she pointed to an even taller building next to it and said, "What a coincidence. The one next to it is my father's company." I silently mocked her in my head. What a bragger. Doesn't even draft her lies. I just said it casually, and she's even more outrageous. Who doesn't know that the tallest building in the city center belongs to the Miller Group? Could she be the daughter of the Miller Group's chairman? Later, when we got off the plane, I found out she really was the daughter of the Miller Group's chairman. At that time, Chloe saw me waiting for a car at the entrance with her. Her driver arrived first. Chloe turned to me and asked, "I'll give you a ride. Let's go together. I'm going to your company later to see Aunt Susan anyway." "You must be Aunt Susan's son, right?" I chuckled dryly. "No need." But Chloe just smiled faintly at me. That beautiful face that could make any young boy fall head over heels instantly obliterated my rationality. Aunt Susan was very kind to my father. "It's no trouble. Let me give you a ride." The next second I said, "Okay, let's go." But when we reached the company entrance, I refused to get out of the car. I said I was hungry. I tricked Chloe into eating wontons at a nearby stall, then tricked her into eating fried chicken at a fried chicken shop. Chloe had clearly never eaten these things before. She ate very elegantly, cutting the chicken breast into small pieces with a knife and fork, which left me dumbfounded. Afterwards, she said to me, "Thank you for taking me to eat such delicious food." I smiled at her. Right. Delicious food makes people happy, especially fried chicken. Chloe smiled. "My mood has indeed improved. Can we go see Aunt Susan now?" I was silent for a moment. Then I said, "Wait, I'm still a bit hungry. Let's go for afternoon tea." Later, when we came out after afternoon tea, it was dark just as I had expected. I turned and pretended to be regretful, saying to Chloe, "Oh dear, it's too late. Let's see Aunt Susan tomorrow. How about we go see a movie first?" Chloe hesitated for a long time before nodding. Later, I found out that the day I met Chloe was the second week after her parents and brother had passed away. She had argued with her father because she didn't want to take over his company and miss their last call before the car accident. They had originally bought plane tickets to Mexico, intending to surprise Chloe, who hadn't been home for 3 years from abroad, but they got into a car accident on the way. The last call to Chloe rang for a long time, but was never answered. The day Chloe returned to the country, she had originally planned to meet the last few important people in her life, and then find a place to end her own. But she happened to meet me, who was charmed by her devastating good looks. I pestered her from dawn till dusk. It was quite a coincidence. The young lady who was used to delicacies actually found the fried skewers from a street stall surprisingly delicious, forgetting the nightmares and the pain of losing her loved ones for a whole night. She suddenly thought it shouldn't be now. There were still things she hadn't seen, hadn't explored, hadn't tried. She should try them all, so it shouldn't be now. For a long time after that, I didn't see Chloe again. I focused on my acting, even though no matter how much I filmed, it was a complete flop. I heard news about Chloe on social media. First, I saw that she had regained her father's shares at a young age and became the CEO of Miller Group. Then, I saw the rumors about her and Alex. Later, I encountered Chloe a few times at dinner parties. She was the center of attention while I sat at the furthest table in the most obscure corner. And then Chloe suddenly contacted me, saying she wanted to sign a 2-year marriage contract with me, offering me $6 million up front and another $8 million afterwards. Hearing about such a great deal, I, for safety's sake, still asked her assistant why she wanted to sign this marriage contract with me. Chloe's assistant also knew about the rumors between Chloe and Alex, so she warned me not to overthink it. Chloe was with me only because of my 7/10 resemblance to Alex. I wouldn't say I was disappointed. After all, Chloe and I had only met once. How could someone like her fall for me? Actually, when we first got married, I still couldn't help but harbor some hope. From the first time I saw Chloe, I knew very well that her face was exactly my type. But after marriage, Chloe remained cold towards me. Gradually, I stopped holding out any hope and just focused on doing my own thing. I clearly understood that ours was just a transaction. After learning the truth from Chloe, I felt my heart beating a little fast. I thought it might be because I was in a good mood. Then, belatedly, I asked Chloe, "So, you fell in love with me at first sight?" Chloe was silent for a moment, then denied it. "Not really. I was a bit disappointed. Actually, when I first signed a marriage contract with you, I just wanted to experience everything I hadn't tried before my life ended. I chose you because you were very interesting, and I happen to have never been in a relationship. I initially thought I would get tired of it after 2 years, but later she inexplicably started caring more and more about me until she learned I only had 2 months left to live. Only then did she realize that some feelings only reveal a corner of their rocky foundation when a big wave hits. This feeling wasn't habitual companionship, but a liking that was only truly perceived upon the brink of loss. Hearing this, I looked at Chloe somewhat speechless. Then why didn't you say so earlier? Why go through all these misunderstandings? Wouldn't it have been better to just clear things up sooner? Chloe cleared her throat a little unnaturally. I always thought you hated me. Olivia later told me that it was wrong for me to sign that contract with you. It would make you misunderstand that I treated you like a commodity and didn't respect you. Besides, your attitude toward me always seemed unwilling to engage, always eager to distance yourself from me. For example, last time at the dinner party, didn't you refuse to even sit with me? I fell into a rather strange silence, contemplating whether my moral compass was set too low. Otherwise, why was it that when I learned I could get over 10 million by signing that marriage contract, my mind was filled only with the joy of impending wealth without a thought for respect or disrespect? After a moment, I told Chloe, "Tell Olivia for me. She's overthinking it. Next time there's such a good deal, remember to find me again." Chloe looked at me angrily. "Oomph." I chuckled dryly. "No, just kidding." Alex, who had been ignored for a long time, stared blankly at Chloe. After a while, he broke down, cursed Chloe as a scumbag, and stormed out. My luggage was still downstairs. I had originally planned to pack up and leave Chloe's house today, but who knew so many things would suddenly happen? So, Chloe, standing opposite me, blocking the door, waited patiently for me to finish speaking. "Are we still getting a divorce?" I asked. Chloe looked at me with some amusement. "What do you think?" I thought for a moment and said, "But you haven't paid the 8 million deposit. If we don't divorce, I'm kind of at a loss." Chloe was so angry she laughed. "A loss? If we don't divorce, you can have as many 8 millions as you want." I nodded and said, "All right then." Chloe repeated my words in disbelief. "All right then. Why do you sound so reluctant?" I smiled faintly at her. "I am reluctant. Who was it that originally planned to hold a memorial service for me?" While eating dinner at home that evening, Chloe said, "Do you know what day it is today?" I looked at Chloe, puzzled. She pointed to the calendar beside her. Having just returned from abroad, and with so much happening, I had almost forgotten it was almost New Year's. The nanny said from the side, "Ever since the incident, Chloe has spent every New Year alone at home." I smiled, took Chloe's hand, and said to her, "From now on, I'll spend every New Year with you." Outside the window at 12 o'clock, fireworks bloomed on time in every corner. Whether it was me and Chloe lying in my arms, or Alex crying heartbrokenly downstairs, or everyone currently troubled by life, all looked up at the fireworks at the same time. The brilliant light illuminated this vast world, and the world seemed to press pause at this moment. Even if the road ahead is confusing, even if mistakes are made, look up. The future path extends from above straight to your feet. Life is wonderfully diverse,